And ladies and gentlemen, my name is Arcane Static, and today we're talking more Little Nightmares. Let's talk about some character stuff today. For these theories to work, we have to accept that the game world isn't a metaphor for child abuse or whatever, but is actually like a real world that exists, in which Six and the other characters actually live. So with that, let's get started. A popular theory right now is that Six is the daughter of the lady. Evidence of this claim is pretty readily available. There's the portrait of the lady with the small child that's in the hallway when you're being chased by the horde of fat, terrible people. And there are the paintings of the girl in the ladies' room. There's also the fact, too, that while the guests will catch you and eat you alive and devour you, and the leeches will also do this, no other enemy outright kills you when they catch you on screen. No, in fact, we actually only see them grab you and then, like, stare at you for a second before the scene fades out. So what does this imply? Well, the implication that I see is that while the guests and the leeches have no qualms eating you because that's what they do, the janitor, the chefs, and the lady all know who you are. The janitor and the chefs know that if they kill you, the lady will be sore about her daughter having been killed, and the lady herself won't kill her own daughter. The leeches have no intelligence and just want something to digest, and the guests, well, maybe the same could be said for them, but the ones who live and work on the Maw, they've all been told, don't kill Six. But this brings up the question, who is Six's father? Well, in order to answer this, we first have to figure out what kind of creature would be eligible for fatherhood of Six. The lady is very humanoid, almost normal in shape and size in comparison to the other creatures we've met on the Maw. This may be because the other characters aren't actually alive, but we'll get to that later. No, we know that Six is at least human-like, if not actually human, and the lady shares those characteristics, if a little bit of a size difference. Six cannot be a descendant of one of the terrible fat guest things because she lacks the physical shape, skin color, and general disgustingness of those creatures, though she does share the hunger. She can't be a descendant of the gnomes because all those things I just said as well, and she can't be a descendant of the Maw workers either. So who then have we seen that has human-like characteristics close enough to be genetically appropriate for being Six's father on the Maw? This guy. The corpse that hangs in one of the early rooms of the game, silently. Sure, we only see his legs, but they are human-like legs. They're long, far too long to be normal, but not abnormally jointed or the like the janitor is. No, this figure seems to be the only other mostly human-like being on the Maw, and judging by the lack of obvious decay or age or wear on the body, I'd say he hung himself pretty recently. Why? Who was he? What was his purpose? Is he another impossible man like the janitor? Who knows? But I have to assume that if the lady is Six's mother, and Six was born on the Maw, this guy is the only other character that could possibly be her father. But there's actually evidence that this isn't the case too, that Six isn't from the lady's family line. Firstly, if you look closely at the lady during the last boss fight, you can see that her hands and flesh are like old and withered and decayed. So if we're to assume that Six is 9 years old, which is information that I got from the wiki, so who knows how reliable it is, but if she is 9 years old, then that means that the lady is far likely too old to have given birth to her. There's the possibility that the lady's current withered, masked appearance is a result of some other malady, and that it's not actually indication of old age, but if it is age, then there's a far lesser chance that Six is her daughter. If anything, might be her granddaughter, but then who's her mother again? But then there's also the matter of the comic book. In the first issue, we see that Six, in her raincoat already, was in a city full of those fat, disgusting guests who couldn't see her, I guess, before being caught by the Ferryman, and brought into the Maw by rowboat. So unless she somehow had already escaped the Maw once, and then was caught again and brought back, this would indicate that she's unrelated to the lady or the hanged man. Let's talk about the Ferryman though, real quick. On my last video, someone asked me about the Wax Bellman, a character who only showed up during the actual, live experience event at Gamescom 2016 in Germany, and not in the game itself yet. We know from the live experience that his thing is to, like, watch you from places you shouldn't normally see. Things like the box that's full of two-way mirrors and the like. And you'll be walking by and then all of a sudden, bam, the lights are on and he's inside and it's scary. Well, there are two places in the game that fit this modus operandi. There's the surveillance room through that secret door in a closet where you can watch through all of the, like, security systems on the Maw to see all the places that have the weird, like, I-beam thing that goes around that you can look through, I guess. But there's also that secret room behind the bathroom mirror from when you're being chased. Leaving to one side the fact that the Maw has a two-way mirror in a bathroom, which is just astoundingly gross and creepy that there was a specific means of watching what someone would do in a bathroom from a hidden position in a little room where there's a chair to just sit and watch. These places in the game are not 100% confirmation that this wax bellman is even on the Maw at all. However, there is another piece of info that I want to link to this. The Ferryman from the comics is a shape-shifting, sort of melted-looking character that brings children to the Maw, who we meet in the comic book. It's not impossible that the so-called Wax Bellman, which itself is not an official name, and the Ferryman, which is an official name, are the same character. Leaving aside the shape-changing ability, their appearances are decently similar, if not perfectly alike, because it's a comic book depiction and then an also, like, live-action Halloween latex mask depiction. Surely they won't be the same. But their stature seems to be around the same, and the quality of their bodies itself lends to be the same kind of creature as the chefs and the janitor. So it's possible that while he is on the Maw, the Ferryman wears the red clothes that he was seen in during the live event to help with the arriving guests and take their bags. But when he's not on guest duty during that rest of the year, since according to lore the Maw only shows up once a year randomly, he's out in his long coat and his fedora hat to snatch up children in times of trouble or stress. Plus, bellhops only really show up when you need something, and according to what I can gather from the comic, the Ferryman only shows up to kids who need an escape, like the kid who was being chased by the North Wind. Which leads to another question: what did Six need that got her onto the Maw? But anyway, in my last video I mentioned the Bread Child. I think everyone can agree that the Bread Child is the runaway kid from the new DLC coming out, right? So it was him that in the comic told Six that if she didn't remember something, if she didn't give him the most recent thing that she could remember, then she would forget everything completely, which is weird. I'm not sure what to think about it, but he's obviously also taller than her, possibly a few years older maybe, and in the promo material, we see that he has a shackle on his foot, which makes me rethink my theory about what class he might be part of. It makes sense if you think about the fact that there is an extravagant amount of food and all kinds of lavish dishes on the Maw, but it seems like this kid only had bread to offer Six in the dark. So maybe that cafeteria or whatever that we saw this runaway child in was the place where the caged children are allowed to eat. Who knows there? One last thing though, the denizens of the Maw, that is the janitor, the chefs, and the ferryman, all have a strange quality about their design. They all have these faces with features that just don't move, which look like they're just masks pulled on over a blank round head. That is actually true. The faces we see of these monsters are just fleshy masks. You can see one of the chefs literally just reach under his face to mop up some moisture, and it's plain that the face of the janitor has simply started to fail and slide down his head. So what does that information lead to? Well, it leads to the examination of the round, featureless heads, the same kind of heads used for those wooden posing dolls that people like to use for drawing practice. All the monsters on the Maw aren't actually alive. They are constructs, golems that wear different flesh suits in varying states of disrepair, possibly all created by the lady, or if not the lady, whoever ran the Maw before the lady was around. That's why when the janitor's arms get cut off, they don't bleed or anything, but instead keep trying to like flop around and grab at Six's body. It's because his body is animated with magic, and he's not an actually living thing. But Vincent, I hear you cry, canon states that the janitor found his way onto the Maw and wasn't created there. Yes, okay, you caught me, that's true. The Word of God says that the janitor is not a native of the Maw. However, his body is the one that seems oldest and in worst repair of the three that we meet of them. So could it be that he was searching for some kind of help or solution, much like the kids must be, and the Ferryman found him? The lady remade him as a construct, took his consciousness and jammed it into this weird wooden doll thing, and then pulled a fleshy mask over him. The lady remade him that way, but that was a long time ago, back when the eyes of his flesh mask hadn't yet peeled away from his featureless skull, back when maybe they still worked and he could see. So is he really even a villain, or is he just misguided and bitter? Who knows? Well, until either the DLC or the next volume of the comic comes out, this'll have to be all of the observations I can make this episode. Issue 2 of the comic comes out July 12th, according to Comixology, which is where I get my comics, and you should too because they're great and they're easy and they've got electronic download services, and why am I advertising for them? But anyway, look for a video shortly after the next comic comes out as well. If you guys have more things that you'd like for me to talk about, by all means don't hesitate to leave them down in the comments and I will try to address them. You can follow my socials, that's the Facebook and Twitter that are in the description box, and if you feel like it, you can help me out by throwing some support my direction at the Patreon link that's down there as well, or possibly clicking on some of the other videos that I do. I don't just do theory videos, this is actually kind of a rarity for me, but I really like doing them, so I might just have to start doing more of them, especially if you guys like them. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.